Okay. I would like to call the meeting of the Planning Commission to order at 6:01 for October 1st, 2024. Okay. I would like to call the October 1st, 2024 meeting of the Cloverdale Planning Commission to order at 6:01. Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Cadle, would you mind starting us off?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a roll call?
Thank you, Chair. Let the record reflect that all commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioner Acey, and Commissioner Williams will be acting in his place tonight.
Okay. Conflict of interest. This is an opportunity for any commissioners to abstain from any agenda items by disclosing any conflicts of interest they may have. Mr. City Clerk, let the record reflect that no commissioners have any conflicts of interest.
Thank you, Chair.
Staff, are there any changes or deletions to the agenda this evening?
No changes.
Thank you. And item B1, new commissioner introduction and oath of office. This is the opportunity to give our new commissioner, I'm sorry, Daniel Frankston, his oath of office.
So, yeah, well, we're really happy that Mr. Frankston decided to join us at the Planning Commission. The City Council appointed him as an alternate commissioner on August 14th. Daniel is a local business owner and an attorney specializing in housing, where he worked in San Francisco. I think you can let us know more about that. He's going to be a great addition to the Planning Commission, so we're really thankful that you are willing to give up your time and help us out, and thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. And I'm looking forward to working with
Real quick,
Turn your
Daniel,
mic
turn your
on.
mic on.
There's a, yeah, just.
New quirks. There we go.
Yes, sorry about that.
No worries.
I want to express my gratitude to the mayor for the appointment, and I look forward to working with you all. As Kevin had indicated, I own a business here in Cloverdale. I was an attorney in San Francisco for 35 years prior to that. Tenants' rights was my primary emphasis, but I'm moderately familiar with a variety of real estate interests. I've been up here for 4 years. My wife and I operate Cloverdale Wellness, and I also, my education, I have a BA in economics. So I'm hoping between my legalese and my background, I'll be able to add some color and work with you and hopefully making Cloverdale a better place.
Thank you.
Right. This is the oath or affirmation of allegiance for public officers. All commissioners and council are mandated to do this. The execution of the oath is required by Article XX, Section 3 of the Constitution of the State of California. With that, if you can please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Daniel Frankston,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United
the
States,
Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon
discharge the duties upon
which I am about to enter.
which I am about to enter.
Congratulations, you're officially a planning commissioner.
Thank you.
Moving on to item B2, the selection of the chair. Would anybody like to nominate the chair for the remainder of 2024?
Yeah, I would. I'd like to nominate you, Melissa. You've been doing such a great job. Let's just keep it rolling.
Thank you.
I'll second. All third.
And Melissa, sorry, Vice Chair Spengler, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
All right, are there any other nominations on the floor for chair? All right, we'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Carney?
Aye.
Commissioner Weggie? Aye. Commissioner Cadle?
Aye.
And you're not allowed to vote for yourself.
Oh, aye.
The motion passes. Vice Chair Spengler will now be Chair Spengler for the remainder of 2024.
Thank you. Moving on to item B3, the selection of vice chair. Would anyone like to nominate a vice chair?
I'll nominate Commissioner Assay.
We have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, and for the record, Commissioner Acey did state offline, since he was unable to attend this meeting, that he would accept any nominations in his absence. So with that, we have a first and a second, and I will start with the motioner, which is Commissioner Cadle.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Carney?
Aye.
Commissioner Wiggy? Commissioner Spengler?
Aye.
Motion passes. Vice Chair Acey for the remainder of 2024. If you'd like, Chair, your name tags right now are blank because I wasn't sure who would be voted what, but if you wanted to hand those out to the respective recipients, you could put the chair under yours. The rest would be commissioners. And then alternate Commissioner Frankston, your name tag is ordered. It should be arriving definitely by our next meeting. It's hopefully tonight, but didn't get here in time.
Great.
Thank you, Chair.
Item C, public comments. Any person wishing to speak to the Planning Commission on any item not listed on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the Planning Commission is not allowed to consider issues or take any action on any item not listed on the agenda. Comments from the public will be allowed on all agenda items at the time each item is called. In person, commenters may fill out a speaker card before or after they have spoken. Please submit to City Clerk for the record. I will officially open public comment period at 6:09. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak at this time? I see no one in the audience. Are there any online comments?
Thank you, Chair. We are still not accepting online comments for the remainder of the year, and there are none. There are 2 attendees, but they can only participate by watching.
Thank you. Item D, communications. We have none at this time. Item E, presentations. We also have none at this time. Moving on to the consent calendar, F1, approval of minutes. All items under the consent calendar will be considered together by one action of the Planning Commission unless commissioner or member of the public requests that an item be removed or considered separately. Would a member of the Planning Commission or public like to move an item from the consent calendar? There are no motions to move anything from the consent calendar. Can I get a motion for the consent calendar?
Yeah, I'll motion that we accept it without reading anything.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. A motion to waive the reading of the text, adopt, and consent calendar was made by Commissioner Carney and seconded by Commissioner Waggy. Can we please have a roll call vote?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Cadle?
Aye.
Commissioner Carney?
Aye.
Commissioner Wiggy? Aye. Chair Spengler?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Item G, public hearings. We have none today. And H, new business, Cloverdale Active Transportation Plan update.
Chair, Commission members, this is our ongoing efforts to create an active transportation plan. I don't know, you may have remember back in April, we had a presentation regarding this. This is the next step in this process. We're not asking for any official action tonight, just more to listen and provide any comments to the consultants who are online and going to give a thorough presentation, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but we have Aaron Ferguson from Farron Piers and Dana Turney from Sonoma County Transit Authority, and they've been the ones working this through the process. They've done a number of outreach efforts in town. At the Earthquake Expo, we had an outreach out here in the lobby of the CPAC, which was pretty well attended. And this is just kind of the next step. They're going to outline where we're going to go from here. It's going to go on to the city council, and then on city council for comments, and then on to city council for adoption early next year. So Aaron, I don't know if you want to take it from there?
Yeah,
Like the
happy to.
presentation.
I can pull up the presentation, I believe.
Hang on, Aaron, we can't hear you. Just one sec.
Okay.
Oh, wait, there you go. Can she share screen? Aaron, do you want to share screen, or do you want?
I can share, it looks like I can share screen, so I'm happy to do
Yeah.
that.
Okay, that way you can advance the slides.
The presentation. Are you seeing the kind of presentation?
Currently, we're seeing your on the black screen, so the
I don't think you're in presentation mode.
yeah.
You're
I
in,
want to share a different the actual presentation.
there it is.
All right, great. Well, thank you for having us this evening. Yes, I'm going to walk through kind of an overview of where we're at and a summary of the work that we've done to date, as well as the contents of the draft active transportation plan. So the draft plan is available on the project website, and you can download a copy. And there's also a form there that folks can fill out to provide comments. So it is available and will remain available for public comment through the end of November. But let me get into the content here. So we've been working on several active transportation plans across Sonoma County through this process. So this is an intentional effort led by SCTA to have a coordinated effort in updating local plans and having a countywide view of those local active transportation plans. So in addition to Cloverdale, you can see on this slide other cities, as well as the county itself has also been updating and developing their active transportation plan. Our activities have been generally grouped into these 7 tasks that we're showing on this slide. And so we're now in task 6, where we have draft plans, and then we'll work towards final plans towards the end of this calendar year. So our activity, we've early on, about a year or so ago, it was when we started, and we looked at existing conditions, kind of existing infrastructure, did some technical analysis to inform kind of and understand where there might be gaps in either bikeway network or gaps in facilities to help people get around by walking. And then we did a fair amount of engagement, and then got into identifying those draft projects, which was part of that public community workshop that we held in June there at the Performing Arts Center. And then we've also identified potential funding for the various projects, and done some prioritization of the projects to give a framework for implementation. And so, as I mentioned, now we're the draft plan, and then as mentioned a moment ago, it'd be early 2025 when we'd be having this plan come forward for adoption. A few key themes in this effort to create these active transportation plans, and kind of these themes are coming from an evolution in how we plan and build infrastructure, and how we think about policies to encourage and enable more people to walk and bike as their kind of way of getting around. And so a key kind of principle or theme in that is thinking more broadly about the population, and that each of us as individuals have different abilities, but we also have different levels of comfort and different levels of tolerance when it comes particularly to something that we call traffic stress. And so some people, and what we're showing here on this graphic is specific to thinking about biking, but this is also true for walking or kind of other active transportation modes. There's a very small percentage of the population who will bike, for example, regardless of what infrastructure we put out on the roadway. And we generally see that being less than 1% of the population. And then there's slightly more people who, if we can provide some level of comfort, maybe some bike lanes, they're enthusiastic and confident enough in their abilities that they will choose to bike. But there's a bigger portion, and that we estimate to be closer to 60% of the population, who continue to be interested in maybe doing more walking or biking, but are concerned. And they're more sensitive to the risk or the perceived risk as traffic volumes go up, or as speeds or the perception of vehicle speeds go up. And so this concept has led us to be thinking more about how can we kind of create infrastructure that both slows vehicles down in certain circumstances, as well as creates more separation between moving vehicles and people walking, biking, or rolling, so to speak. And so that's a key theme for this active transportation plan update, both Cloverdale's as well as countywide. Another important thing that's happened or is happening with this update is incorporating other new industry best practices. So how we think about on-street kind of bikeway selection, what are the features, what are those design attributes, has evolved since the previous bicycle and pedestrian master plan. How we think about multi-use paths and connectivity, ways to deliver projects more quickly, quick build projects, are examples of kind of these different topics that have evolved in the industry. And so incorporating these best practices into the types of projects we're identifying, but also the policies in the active transportation plan as well. So big pictures, we think about the countywide effort to develop these ATPs. Again, kind of the one purpose is at all ages and abilities. And so creating spaces for people to walk, bike, and roll that are low stress, and really trying to create more opportunities for people to use active transportation modes to get around. Coordinating regionally, so countywide, having that coordination, and as part of this, identifying and thinking about what are some regional routes between jurisdictions that help connect communities across the county. And then implementation. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that, but coming up with, a way to prioritize projects and look for opportunities to fund those projects through grant funding and at the regional as well as state and federal levels. So over the last roughly year, we've had a fair amount of outreach. We've done in-person events, one of which was mentioned, but last November, we had a pop-up event at the Farmers Market, and then in May at the Fire and Earthquake Safety Expo. And that first event last fall was to gather folks' input on kind of essentially some of their concerns or lived experiences walking and biking, or things that they saw as opportunities to improve. And then in the May kind of pop-up event, in that spring time frame, we were sharing back with what are the draft projects, so giving an opportunity for folks to comment on the proposed projects themselves. We also had an online interactive web map and an online survey, 2 of those, that followed that same basic schedule. So one last fall, and then one more recently in the spring, and then the in-person public workshop in June, again, focused on looking at maps, and you can see some photos from that workshop on this slide, and allowing folks to write comments related to both the draft projects as well as kind of the topical items that we're planning to address in policies or in countywide programs. So I'm going to transition now kind of away from those processy slides and into more of the highlighting some of the planned content. So in the ATP, you'll see kind of we talk about some of the existing conditions and context for the city of Cloverdale, and also kind of officially kind of say, here's from where we're at today, what is the existing bikeway network is made up of. And so the different colored lines on this map, the yellow lines are indicating where there are bike lanes today. The red lines are indicating streets that are designated as bike routes. The blue line is where you've got multi-use path. And so those are kind of the existing bikeway network. We also, through this process, identified sidewalk gaps. And so these are streets where either one side or both sides do not have sidewalks, and roughly the kind of approximate extents of those gaps. So this kind of gives you a sense, and a fair amount of the city actually has quite good sidewalk coverage, but this kind of gives a sense of areas where, for one reason or another, those have not yet been built. Now, one of the technical analyses that we did, and kind of the results of that, is shown on this map, where we looked at level of traffic stress. And so that was the concept that I was describing, where we think about each as an individual, we're each kind of sensitive to different levels of maybe the stress of walking along a roadway that has a lot of traffic versus less traffic, or that might have traffic moving at higher speeds versus lower speeds. And so this level of traffic stress, or LTS, gives a rating. And so a 1 on this scale is very low stress, lower volume streets, slower streets, therefore less stressful. 4 is kind of the highest stress level, where you might have more vehicle lanes to cross, or more vehicles on it, or higher speed travel. And so this gives us a high level sense of, just working with the data that we have, where might there be kind of a need for different types of walking and biking infrastructure. So typically, if it's higher stress, then you would kind of look at putting in a bike facility that provides more separation between people biking and vehicles moving. So that's kind of the idea behind this analysis. And so we often do this early on, and then compare it to the input we get from the public to see, okay, how well does this generally kind of align with people's experience. So kind of taking all of that existing conditions information, and kind of the in combination with the kind of the themes or the principles, the purpose behind the ATP update. We also developed a vision statement and goals that are consistent across the countywide ATP, or consistent with the countywide ATP as well. And so the vision statement is shown here. I can read it quickly, and then we'll share with you the kind of the goals that go with it. So our guiding principles are to improve safety, connectivity, equity, and quality of life. Walking, biking, and rolling shall be safe and appealing modes for people of all ages and abilities to use for everyday transportation and recreation. And then the supporting goals and their descriptions we have here. So there's 3 goals. The first, connected and reliable. The second, safe and well-maintained. And the third, community-oriented and place-based. And what you will see in the draft ATP is that the policies we identify in that plan go in support of each of these, or organized in support of each of these goals. As we kind of use this information to kind of move our way towards developing projects, kind of one piece of this is thinking about kind of what types of bikeway facilities or bike facilities, types of infrastructure make the most sense to identify from a project perspective. And so I've kind of alluded to these considerations along the way, but really as we kind of think about the community input, kind of what are people's current experiences and levels of comfort, what are the speeds of vehicles along a given street, the number of vehicles, and then how much space on the street or in the right-of-way is there to be allocating, space for different modes. And as I mentioned before, kind of general industry guidance is as vehicle volume or speed increases, that we would look to provide more separation or more meaningful separation for people between kind of where they're walking or biking and where vehicles are moving. And so specific to bikes, there's over the last 5 or so years, kind of expanded the different types of bike facilities that we plan for and build going beyond a designated bike route, which might be, a sign on the little green sign with the white text and the white bike symbol that says this is a bike route, to bike lane on the left kind of middle there, where we've put down white pavement and said, here's a space for bikes to ride. And we've added a bit more to these facility types. It's kind of at the top here, what we're showing is a bike route and a bike boulevard. Kind of the similarity there is bikes are sharing the lane with vehicles on those. Bike boulevards tend to be more preferred these days because bike boulevards intentionally use traffic calming devices like neighborhood traffic circles and things of that nature to slow vehicles down, so that we lower stress on bike boulevards by lowering vehicle speeds and making it obviously not a through street for vehicles. So that also helps to sometimes lower vehicle volume as well. Kind of the next middle, we have bike lanes or buffered bike lanes. So buffered bike lanes give more kind of painted separation between the space where somebody's biking versus a moving car. So that it increases that kind of horizontal separation. And then in that bottom row, we're showing kind of two different lower stress type of facilities. On the left is a separated bike lane. So it's on street and it's for bikes, but it's physically separated. In the photo we're showing are some planters and some kind of curb stops to create some protection. And so that physically kind of separates and protects bikes from moving cars. And then on the bottom right is the multi-use path, which we've long had and continues to be a really nice low stress way to create a space for people to both walk and bike. So that's kind of the range of different facility types. So as we think about Cloverdale, this map is showing, and there's also a map and a project list in the draft ATP, all of the kind of proposed bikeway projects. And again, we're kind of using the different colors. They're dashed because they're planned, but blue being the multi-use path. We have yellow, two different kinds of yellow. One plain yellow, that's a bike lane. One yellow that's outlined in black, that's a buffered bike lane. So a little more space, additional separation. Kind of a pink or red color, that's the bike route. And then the bike boulevards are also pink or red, but outlined in black. And then the separated bikeway is in purple there. Then there are a few instances where we're kind of just calling out traffic calming just for everybody's, I think, benefit from a safety perspective. And so that is showing up in a few locations, I think in gray there. And then the circles are crossing improvements, and crossing improvements, benefit everyone. So crossing improvements, both from helping people who are walking across the street, but also those on bikes or rolling with another kind of mobility assisted device. And so this gives a sense. We are showing projects outside of city limits just to provide a sense of what is in the county's draft ATP, since they've been part of this process. So you can see a little bit more of some of the connectivity just to the south and just to the north of the city as well. This map is showing the sidewalk improvements. And so this is built off of the sidewalk gaps in that inventory that we made, and kind of calls out and numbers those as potential future sidewalk projects to help build out that walking network. And then here we're coming back together to show the existing kind of bike lanes and bike routes along with the proposed projects. So this gives us a sense of what the kind of network would look like built out. You can get a sense of some of the increased connectivity east to west, as well as a little bit north to south. In some places, you might notice like one dashed line on top of a solid line that's just indicating a potential opportunity to enhance the existing facility. So go from, say, a bike lane to a separated bike lane. All right, so with all of those projects, and there are a fair number of projects, thinking through implementation is important. And so one piece of that is kind of what projects might come first versus in the middle versus later. And so we worked through a project prioritization process and identified these criteria. And these criteria are also consistent with the criteria SCTA is planning to use for kind of allocating Go Sonoma funding. So good to align with that. These criteria are also commonly the criteria that show up in as being important if you're going to compete for other grant funds. And so these are kind of looking at safety. So where are we improving safety at priority safety locations? Where are we making improvements at or near bus stops or at or near schools? What parts of these are kind of making walking in the town center around kind of activity areas lower stress and more comfortable, making walking or biking lower stress or more comfortable? Which ones are community supported? And so these collection of criteria we use to then sort the projects into three buckets, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And so within each bucket, the projects are not sorted any further, but this does give kind of staff a starting place to be thinking about priority, and as well as kind of some flexibility within each category to be opportunistic as things might come up and create opportunities to advance projects. So then I mentioned, kind of alluded to this as part of the ATP, we've got kind of a portion focused on what are the projects and kind of the build out of the walking, biking, rolling network. And then policies are a helpful and supportive way to also advance implementation and advance projects. And so the policies are organized to support each of those three goals I noted above. Generally, won't read through them all, but generally they touch on and include kind of the following types of of topics. So coordinating with other public agencies when it comes to implementation activities and planning activities, applying industry best practice and required standards and doing projects, kind of designing and implementing projects, making improvements that are consistent with Vision Zero action plan, facilitating kind of implementation through other kind of routine or regular activities, commitment to doing our best to maintain existing as well as newly built facilities. And again, kind of that theme of working to make it easier to walk and bike for all ages and abilities, and supporting education and encouragement activities. In also kind of in that implementation section, we identify funding at regional, state, and federal levels for active transportation projects, and within kind of the countywide active transportation plan. There's more detail on this, but kind of give a summary of some of the potential opportunities for funding for these kinds of projects and improvements. And then finally, towards the end of the plan, we identify monitoring an opportunity for the city to keep track of certain metrics that over time you can track progress towards implementation of the plan content. And so the metrics are kind of grouped under those three goals, but with the idea of looking at kind of the as infrastructure is built or advanced, as well as kind of the improved outcomes from building those projects and putting the policies in place. So our next steps, again, we'll be presenting the draft to City Council later this month, and public comment on the draft ATP is open now through the end of November. And so then towards the end of the calendar year, we'll be finalizing based on those comments, and then bringing the final ATP back to City Council for adoption in early 2025. That concludes the presentation.
Anybody want to start?
As far as the crossing improvements, who makes the decision on how those are done? Like whether it's a stoplight or a four-way stop or?
His mic is on.
And I think it's just not working.
As far as the crossing improvements on the existing and proposed active transportation map, who makes the decision on what kind of crossing improvement is made, the design and?
Yeah, in the plan, we identify the potential. Sorry, am I still sharing my screen? Oh, okay. Distracted seeing myself twice. In the plan, we identify potential crossing improvements, but ultimately at the time that kind of project would be advanced, it would be up to city staff to make the final decisions kind of based off of, at that point in time, vehicle volume, vehicle speeds, those kinds of characteristics. There's industry guidance, and if you're going to put in a signal, for example, there are actually warrants that you have to meet. So we make high level plan recommendations for consideration, but ultimately when it would advance for actual kind of further planning and design, staff would be making those final decisions.
The gap,
What's that?
the gap.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Did the new development on Asti Road, was that taken into consideration in here? Because I can't tell if sidewalk was added.
Yeah, Aaron, can you go back to the gap map with the brown lines? It's still showing that there's a gap there, but yeah, technically there would be a small removal there where they were putting the frontage along the Asti Road apartments.
Okay. Yeah. Also, it looks like, I think that, hasn't that area been annexed in? That's like the Lyle Lane, Hamlin Lane?
Not yet.
Okay. Thought we approved it to be,
It's been to the Planning Commission, it's been to council. At this point, it needs to go to the Sonoma County LAFCO,
okay.
and we're kind of wrangling over who's going to do that, so.
But it's inevitable, right?
Yeah, I would say it is.
I mean, I don't think it would make a great deal, have a great deal of impact on this, but I mean, it kind of is important that it's included if that's going to be our boundary line eventually, right?
No, I think it's a good point. I mean, it's definitely an area that's not up
There's no
to
sidewalk.
city
It's pretty unsafe.
standards.
It's unsafe just to pull out of one of those driveways and onto the boulevard there.
And there'd be challenges with some of the houses are really close, so it'd be hard to even get a sidewalk in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Along those same lines, I guess, any consideration for Baumgartner as that?
Yeah, there's, I mean, Baumgartner, I just want to make a couple points, and it's kind of to your point is why a couple reasons what's really important to have this is one, for grant applications, as Aaron said, if it's identified in a plan, it gives us more standing when we go for grants. And for two, when we're conditioning projects about what frontage or trails or whatever we want them to put in, we have a little more leverage if it's identified in an adopted plan. So Baumgartner, he's completing the Foothill, and then the road that comes out between Renner and that narrow, there's actually a bike lane there too. It's very tight, but it's there. It's not there yet, but it's part of their conditions of approval. And then the one other thing for Baumgartner, it's probably not on here, but they do want to donate about 7 acres of the uphill to the west of what's currently being constructed. And then the thought was that we could have a trail in there. It's a little different from this, but it's not really for getting around. It's more for recreation.
Gotcha. Okay.
Commissioner Way, did you have a comment? Question?
Yeah, is there any consideration given to,
Your mic's not on, Bill.
has consideration been given to Senator McGuire's Great Redwood Trail, which would run along the train tracks?
Maybe we can go back to the map that shows the future. Let's see what.
Yes, so I could just jump in. That's the blue line you see following the this proposed smart pathway does extend up north past the train station. And I believe that aligns with the Great Redwood Trail.
It looks like it does.
Coming over on the side with the tail down there, I don't know, maybe that's it.
There's what looks like one's going along the Smart, and then there's one going along the river in the resort area down there.
I'm sorry, the audio is a little garbled. What was the question about the trail alignment?
Well, I wonder if the line, it's kind of in the middle on the lower right-hand side that kind of extends off the bottom of the screen is the Smart Train Redwood Trail pathway.
I think it is. It's right on the railroad tracks, kind of dissecting that southernmost east side. There's also a river trail shown, so there's a river and the Smart.
Yes, correct.
We're so confident the train's coming. Just wanted to point that out. Sorry. Okay. I know. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I do, yes. I'm curious as to what kind of considerations have been given to the East 3rd Street, which is kind of a tiny street, but at the end of that street is the Kings Valley Senior Apartments, consists of 99 units. And an earlier traffic study, informal traffic study done by Chief Ferguson showed that there's 1,300 events in a single 24-hour period on that 400-foot-long street, due in part to the due primarily to the apartments. Those include, not only the delivery trucks, FedEx, UPS, 24 bus trips, and all the folks that are coming in and out. And a high percentage of those are rolling on rascals or similar type equipment. And I just wonder how much consideration has been given to that short city block.
So 3rd Street and Main East?
East 3rd Street, yeah, so that's it.
On
Ends at
figure-
Main Street, ends right there at the hill, switches to private property, and
Yep.
Is that figure 5 that's up there? Can you see?
Yeah.
So Aaron, I think it's number 38 on figure 5. There was some consideration given to that intersection, which we'd have to go down and see what 38 corresponds with.
Yeah.
I saw 38 on there. I wasn't sure. I didn't have the full plan with me to look it up, so.
Yeah, let me see what 38 is.
Yeah, it's some level of crossing improvement at that location.
Section of East 3rd and Main Street.
Yeah.
And it's, the challenges that I've seen, at least, when I'm in the area, is that, I'm in the area an awful lot, is that, there are quite a few people walking, biking, and rolling on their devices down the center of the street. It just seems to me like it might warrant a little bit additional attention. I don't know.
Yeah, we're happy to take another look at that, and I'm sure maybe we could, I don't think I've seen the report you mentioned, but we could certainly take a look at that and maybe that information.
Is there sidewalks along the whole?
Sidewalks on both sides.
Okay.
It's just, you get a 48-foot truck going down
Yeah.
between, it's, to deliver to
Kings Valley.
Kings Valley, then, it gets a little bit different, especially if there's some of the tenants from the apartments, in the road in their devices.
Aaron, I had a question, if you don't mind, Chair. I forget what you called it, like the stress map, or where people are feeling. What is it called?
Yeah, level of traffic stress.
Yeah, figure 4. And then it indicates that the entire length of Cloverdale Boulevard is what does it stand for? The level 4.
High stress is the.
Yeah. I'm just wondering what the commission thought. Do you think that it might be hard to change this just based on, you don't really understand what the criteria is necessarily, but one downtown, like right in front of Plank and kind of where it narrows down, I mean, does that feel like a less of a stress area to ride a bike? I don't know, maybe it doesn't, but.
Or even up by the high school, it's pretty wide.
Is there?
Yeah, I mean, now that it's been for a long time, but it is pretty narrow in there when there's cars parked. And I know just driving when there's bikes there,
It's kind of tight.
Yeah, and can cause some congestion.
Okay.
Super tight, from 3rd Street down to Lake Street, is where it's all necked in like that. If there's bikes on the road there, it's, I drive a truck.
It's tight.
We should keep it that, okay.
I mean, in my mind, ideally, it would be, maybe the primary bike routes would then be diverted over to, like, say, Jefferson, where we've got a lot more space and less traffic. Yeah.
I bike that fairly frequently, and I usually go on Main Street because it's,
Safer.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bike lane on Main Street helps, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
We'll keep it at level 4 then.
Any other questions or comments?
I want to open it up to the,
Are there any members of the public that would like to comment at this time?
Hello, hi. Emily Sharton, I'm the advocacy coordinator for the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition. So thank you to SCTA and Fair and Peers for this report. I know this has been a lot of work. Thanks also to all of the community members who came forward to share some ideas about making improvements in the city for cyclists and pedestrians. I just have a couple of comments I wanted to share. We can't stress enough the importance of having a connected network that serves riders of all ages and abilities. So really happy to see that that's the first policy goal on this draft. And we want to emphasize that the city needs to keep this as a North Star as it starts building out these projects. You guys talked a little bit about the importance of, or just cyclist accessibility to Cloverdale Boulevard. Obviously, it's the busiest street in town. It's main route for businesses and services, also a route for getting to schools. It's got many users and uses, and all of the projects, I think, associated with Cloverdale Boulevard should be priority, should be tier 1 in this draft. There are a lot of them, connections to the boulevard and so forth. Really happy to see also that protected or separated bike lanes are recommended for the segment of Cloverdale that's south of 1st Street. This is really going to build confidence, I think, for a lot of riders. That segment north of 1st, which you were just talking about, is designated a bike route with no bike lanes. That's not ideal. Having bikes, share those lanes with cars. But as you mentioned, in the absence of actual bike lanes on Cloverdale Boulevard, the connections and other parallel routes are really going to be critical. So, Main Street, Washington, Commercial, Jefferson. Jefferson is a wide street. I was curious, it looks like it's designated as having bike lanes, but it doesn't look like there actually are any on it, or at least maybe they're very faded, I'm not sure. But that as an alternative, I think would be good. Also just wanted to make one note about bike boulevards, which came up in the discussion too. Generally, those aren't a facility that the Bike Coalition endorses, again, because you're asking cyclists to share lanes with vehicles. There's no sort of designated lane for bikes to be traveling in. But we understand, that they might be the only option in some instances. There are a lot of them, I think, on your draft map that are proposed for the city. And Aaron talked about this a little bit. It's not just a matter of putting sharrows on the road. The city needs to look at options to actually divert traffic on those streets, slow traffic, so that cyclists can, feel safer traveling on those streets. And then I just had a couple of questions about the draft. I'm curious if there were more robust connections considered around Jefferson Elementary School. Again, if not Cloverdale Boulevard, then maybe Jefferson Street, extending some of the bike lanes up, further north. Also was curious about projects 6 and 11, which look like they involve a connection on Foothill or between the two parts of Foothill. I'm figuring this is some kind of a multi-use trail that's proposed there, but I wasn't sure. And then lastly, there was just kind of there's like a random number 14 at the very top of the map, right near 128 that looks like it didn't really correspond to anything, but I wasn't sure about that. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to comment at this time? Let the record show there are none. Does the commission have any additional comments? I think I will just put emphasis on Jefferson Street as the main bike artery. When I'm taking the kids every morning, there's always parents and their kids riding down the street, and I do think about how advantageous it would be to have them in their own space for safety, because there are a lot of kids that use that road, making that a priority to divert off the boulevard. Okay. More comments?
Well, just one other comment about Jefferson is that the road surface is really it's in bad shape.
Oh my gosh.
You go by the school, by Jefferson School, it's bad. You go by the high school, then the main part between 1st and 3rd or School Street is raveling. So if you put markers on there, they're probably just going to come right back off. So
I couldn't agree more that it needs to be repaired. Yeah, I actually had a bracket on my truck that snapped, and I was just thinking where I hear it when it snapped, and I could tell it was that section right after School Street. Nowhere else. Like, I brought it to the shop 3 times, nobody could hear the sound. I had to finally have them go over that little section. I'm like, oh, I hear it. So it would help to have it repaired for bike riders and vehicles. Okay. You don't have a comment on that, Kevin?
Well, I mean, that's kind of
It's a different subject.
Yeah, it's a different subject. We're pursuing ballot measures to hopefully help us with the streets. And so that's what I have on that one.
Yep. Okay. So that concludes the presentation of the Cloverdale Active Transportation Plan update. Correct.
Yeah. I think, Aaron, did you...
Thank you for... Go ahead.
Aaron, did you get what you needed from the commission, or is there any more questions, or?
This has been great. Yeah, thank you for your time and input. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aaron and team, for your guys' time. Okay. Moving on to the commission reports. Would any commissioners like to provide reports this evening? Jefferson Street, maybe? No? Okay. Written letters? We have none?
None.
Department reports.
Sure, I'll just give you a quick update on what's going on. We did receive a permit for a very large EV charging, what do we call it? Station?
Yeah, I forget the term.
On the south end.
Yeah.
How many, what chargers?
136.
136 chargers. So it's really focused on the south entrance, the exit ramp. So we're working on that. We're trying to determine what type of approvals they need. There has been some changes in state law similar to affordable housing that may limit on what approvals that they need to seek from us. And it's just an application at this point, so we don't know if it's really going to go forward. We did meet with 101 North. I know everyone's curious and probably getting a little upset with that project, and they've had some difficulties financially, but I think that they're back on track and they're working on some plans. They haven't submitted any plans yet, like building permit level plans. So we did just meet with them last week and have a nice discussion, so hopefully that's moving forward. We did mention that we're likely going to cancel November 5th meeting. There's no agenda items. And I didn't mention in the beginning, Commissioner Cadle, with the appointment of Commissioner Frankston, got moved up to regular position. So just, that's good. And I think that is the end of my report. Do you have anything else?
Yes, Commissioner Wagner.
Can you refresh my memory on what 101 North is?
It's the old gas station next to Papa's Pizza.
Oh,
What was it going to be?
no, that's the one next to Papa's.
Yeah, remember the music and
Yeah, I
restaurant?
understand they've got major problems with electrical hookups.
They did have problems with PG&E, but we're really pulling for them, and we hope that, we're trying to make it, as painless as possible from our end, because we think it's just a great project, and so hopefully they can pull it off.
Do we have any commission direction on future agenda items? Okay. Thank you all for coming. This meeting is adjourned at 7:02 to the next regularly scheduled meeting. November 5th will be canceled, so it will go to the first Tuesday of December.